Millennials are very cocky. We are very cocky because the access we get to things has made it easier for us to have success quicker. It seems that way because the more popular people have gotten there easier. But you need that generation, you need that Gen X to let you know, hey, it's okay. This is what I did.
You guys, you've got all of this stuff. You've got all this access. You've got all of this information. And so I feel that in some ways it can be a little bit
overwhelming.
So you are the overachiever.
I was a little overachiever, and not by fault.
Go get a mentor.
Yeah.
Go find folks.
It's so important.
Yeah. Find folks that you feel that have some years on you.
Yeah.
Have some experience on you and use them.
That 12-year-old who grew up on social media, it's just innately in there. They know how to handle that. They know how to run that.
Well, now you touched on a whole nother level. See, millennials, you're about to be old.
Yeah.
Because you got, what's this, Generation Z? Is that what they're calling them?
Generation Z, literally the end of the alphabet.
Entering the
I don't know what they got
workforce
going on.
right now. Y'all just got old.
Man, we asking them for advice now, but I think it's important for all of the generations to stay connected and know it's a place. Clearly, it's a place for everybody, and we should be helping each other. It can be very overwhelming having access to things and having access to other people and what they're doing is kind of overwhelming too.
And we all want to be more, whether we've been in the business for 30 years or for 3 months.
Everybody's anxious. Everybody's looking at social media, getting depressed about their own life. When really you have these other people who are living these normal lives, might not be heavy influencers, who need that guidance from Generation X. Like, I was right where you were. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Hi, I'm Ronell Richards, the creator and host of Business and Bourbon. In 1985, while a lot of kids were playing with He-Man action figures and My Little Pony dolls, I learned to use a cash register for the first time, and there was no turning back. So for the last 20 years, I've been an entrepreneur, coach, mentor, and now a podcaster. It's pretty cool. Over the course of my career, I spent a lot of time in some dimly lit bars and restaurants just enjoying cocktails with other entrepreneurs and business leaders. And it's amazing how real and candid these conversations can get when you add a little social lubricant. I found that these conversations have been some of the most just productive and enlightening of my career. So after one of these conversations recently, I said, you know what? How many other entrepreneurs and business leaders could benefit from this type of real talk with real people just like them? And that's how Business and Bourbon was born. It's about real talk with real people. In future episodes, what you can expect is other business professionals and entrepreneurs at various stages of their careers. We're going to bring in people that are established veterans, that are successful entrepreneurs, that are entering entrepreneurship. And we're going to have real talk. And we're going to discuss the obstacles, the issues, the successes. And we're going to do that while enjoying some great beverages at some of the coolest bars and restaurants in the United States. And hey, if I'm lucky, maybe beyond. You never know. Well, our first guest is Shelby. I thought it was so important to bring Shelby in because Shelby represents the largest segment of the workforce today. Millennials. Yeah, I know we're all sick and tired of hearing millennial this, millennial that, right? Well, this is something that we have to talk about for that reason. So what Shelby and I did is we sat down and had some real open and honest discussion about the challenges that millennials are facing and how they can interact with Gen X and boomers for our joint success. This is an episode that people of all ages and at all levels of the workforce can really enjoy and really understand. Because we're going to talk about some real, honest issues that I feel that most folks can identify with. But not just issues, we're going to talk about solutions, because that's what we do in Business and Bourbon. We talk about solutions to these issues so that we can all move forward and be successful. So I want you to go ahead and grab a glass, grab a cup, grab a mug, and just pour your favorite beverage, whatever that is. Take a seat down next to us here at the bar and enjoy a little Business and Bourbon. Welcome to the Business and Bourbon Podcast. This is where we have real talk with real people and some real drinks too. So today I'm very excited to welcome Shelby. And we're here in the beautiful King and Duke restaurant, and we want to thank those guys for sponsoring our show. Beautiful King and Duke here in downtown Atlanta in the Buckhead district. And we love coming here. We love hanging out here. They've got some fantastic drinks and just a really cool vibe. And that's why we come here, right? So we're welcoming Shelby to the show today. And for those of you that haven't listened to our show yet, we want to remind you that Business and Bourbon is about real talk with real people. Okay, so what we do on this podcast is we talk about just the shit that we need to talk to get through the day, right? We're going to talk about on this podcast the things that it takes to be successful. A lot of folks think that it's the big things, right? They think that it's the big decisions that determine whether you're a success. It's really the small stuff, right? The big stuff, the decision's already made for you. You lose your job, okay, you get another job. You don't have a choice in the matter. But it's the smaller decisions, those ones. Let's say you've got a child that comes down with an illness, or you've got a parent that you've got to care for. That's the type of stuff we're going to talk about. How do you deal with that? How do you maintain your focus? How do you achieve just dealing with the same shit that we all deal with every day? And I'm going to tell you guys, this is about real talk here. So we will not mince words. We'll be honest. We'll talk about the things that we all think about, and we're going to give it be as authentic as we can possibly be and giving solutions. So we will have guests that are just like you. Why does that matter? Well, because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't understand your life. Let's just be honest. Jeff Bezos doesn't understand your life, but I do. Shelby does. Why? Because we've lived that life, and we're living that life. So this is where we share our best practices, and we share our experiences to help each other win and succeed. So with all that said, I want to welcome Shelby as our guest today.
Hey,
and
guys.
Hey, Shelby.
Hey.
Oh, man, doesn't she have a great radio voice? Good job, Shelby. So, Shelby, before we get into the podcast, I want you to give our listeners just a little bit of a background on you. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Okay. Well, my name is Shelby Irene. I'm 27 years old, and I'm from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, in the middle of nowhere, and you don't know where it is. Don't try to look it up. But I love my small town. I went to North Carolina A&C. It is a historically black college, one of the most elite. I'm just bragging,
That's
but
what
it's
I
the
hear.
truth.
Yeah.
It's the truth. And I graduated with a bachelor's in theater arts with a focus in performing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Don't even know why I told you.
Well, see, that's very interesting. And the thing is, I quintessential millennial, right? You did all the right things,
Yeah.
right? You went to school. Tell us about that school experience. I mean, you're a really successful college student, right?
I was. I actually graduated with honors, summa cum laude. I participated in almost every show. As an underclassman, I was the lead in almost every show that we had on. I did some shows at a regional theater when I was an upperclassman. So I was one of the only students to do a show that was off campus at a regional theater, which made me eligible to get my card. So that made me pretty happy.
And that's a SAG card? Is that what
No,
we're talking
it's not SAG when it comes to theater.
Okay.
It's equity. Your
Got
equity
it.
card.
Okay.
So I became eligible for that at an early age. So that was good. Yeah, I just
So you were the overachiever.
I
right?
was a little overachiever, and not by fault. Like I didn't even try. I just did it. It's what
Yeah.
I love to do, so I just did it.
So,
Really.
you know, what I like about your story is that I feel like so many folks out there can identify with you guys. Well, I'm sorry, with you. Millennials that have made the right decisions, right? We've gone to school, we got our education, and then we get out in the world and we're like, okay, now what? Now we've got all of these boomers and Gen Xers like myself that have this head start on you guys, and you're kind of trying to figure out your way. And there's a lot of challenges that come with that.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about those.
Yeah.
Before we do, it's very important that we share with the folks what we're drinking, because when we talk about business and bourbon, it's not just talk. Like, we're enjoying some beautiful drinks. Now, I asked Shelby to do the honors of figuring out which drink I was going to have. Shelby, what am I drinking?
You are drinking a classic King and Duke Manhattan. He asked for something that was wintry with rye. So
Yes.
I gave instructions and we came up with this.
I love it. It's good. And what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Double Maker Sour.
And from what I understand, that is your favorite spirit.
That
Makers.
is. I love Maker's Mark.
Okay.
That's my favorite thus far until, of course, I start making more money and then I move to something else.
I love Maker's Mark too. Hey, Maker's Mark, if you're out there, we absolutely would love your sponsorship.
Oh, come
and
on.
we'll drink more Makers. All right.
You know what? Send it to me personally.
So getting back on track here, let's talk a little bit about the challenge of transitioning from college
Yeah.
to the business world.
Yeah.
And tell me what that's been about for you. What's that been like?
It's been a good transition, but it's definitely been rough. When you come from an institution, I came from being consistently in school. So anytime where I'm out, that's not what I'm used to. I went straight from high school, where I played sports, was in honors classes, straight to college where I was doing extracurricular activities, always in class, to a point where I was out of college and I just didn't know what to do.
So a real structured environment.
That's what I was used to. I was used to people telling me exactly what was due and due dates for it. So I wasn't used to making my own schedule and figuring out what I needed to do.
So what I've seen is that a lot of millennials similar to yourself that come from a very structured environment. You come from your parents' house to go to college and you've excelled there, but there's been a lot of structure. You get out into the business world and there's an issue with focus, right?
Yeah.
There's an issue with just having the ability to really sit down and figure out exactly what you want to do and have that focus to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. And I think that my own personal opinion, I'm playing pocket psychologist here. I have no degree in it, just so you guys know.
Oh, I double majored in psychology.
Oh, you did? Okay, well then you can verify what I'm about to say is being accurate. So I think that with millennials, you come again from this environment where it's very structured, and you are inherently a generation that just has had so much access and learned to kind of multitask in a way. You've got so much stimuli, right? You've got, I know I can speak for Gen X, we're kind of like the beginning of the computer generation, right? But you guys, you've got all of this stuff. You've got all this access. You've got all of this information. And so I feel that in some ways it can be a little bit
overwhelming.
Yeah, speak to your experience with that.
It can be very overwhelming. Having access to things and having access to other people and what they're doing is kind of overwhelming too.
Yeah.
When it comes to your own, where you're at in life and what you're doing.
So I think where you're going with that kind of ties into the social media world, right?
Yeah,
where
definitely.
I think the millennials are obviously leading the way when it comes to social media and activity on social media, and so you got a lot of stuff out there. So I can imagine that it's been quite a challenge for you coming out of college, and you get all this imagery. You see folks that are your age or younger that seemingly have these fantastic lives, and they've got great cars and things of that nature that kind of I'm assuming that you start judging yourself at that point, or measuring, right?
It's kind of like I did everything I was supposed to do. I followed the book. And when you get to this place where you graduate, you're like, well, what's next? I did what everyone told me to do. I did what was, quote unquote, responsible, what a smart person would do. What's next? And so you see everybody else who not necessarily did what you did, might not have put in that work, and they have more, they're getting these opportunities, and you're like, okay, how do I go about getting my own? You know what I mean?
I do. So I think that what we spoke about previously off air is really understanding what's real and what isn't, first of all, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
so
a fact.
Has that been helpful for you, first of all, in finding mentors and finding folks that are Gen X, folks that are boomers that can kind of like weed through all of that crap and say, hey, look, this is what's real and this is what isn't.
Yeah, I would say this. Millennials are very cocky. We are very cocky because the access we get to things has made it easier easier for us to have success quicker. It seems that way because the more popular people have gotten there easier. But you need that generation, you need that Gen X to let you know, hey, it's okay. This is what I did, and you see where I'm at. And I'm like, okay, got it. So everybody is not that one or two people who you see out here, heavy influencers, getting things so easily. It's okay. Some things take time. You get opportunities and you work towards things. So I really want to shout out to Gen X because I have a lot of mentors.
Thank you. I will take that shout out. I will take that. I think that a lot of folks just... millennials, again, get, like we discussed before, get caught up in the imagery. Yeah. And Gen X, baby boomers, we've been there already. So we can kind of help. Been there with less. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, hey, and shout out to baby boomers. Shout out to baby boomers. Because I don't, man, you don't even know what an encyclopedia is,
I
Shelby.
Can't even spell it.
And so I had an encyclopedia, and I don't know what we're using. Boomers, what were y'all using? Like, I don't know, some Fred Flintstone tablets. I'm just kidding. You know, I love my boomers. But no, in all seriousness, I think what you've learned in your process and that can help other millennials out there is go get a mentor. Yeah. Go find folks. It's so important. Yeah. Find folks that you feel that, hey, look, that have some years on you. Yeah. Have some experience on you and use them. Like, I feel that the different generations that sometimes feel threatened by each other, right? The older generations feel like the younger generation is coming in and they're brash and they want to take everything and they're aggressive and then the younger generation feels like, hey, you don't respect me because I'm younger and all that sort of thing, right? What do you think?
It's so much. I see what you're saying, but it's so much that we can learn from each other. If I was Generation X, I would definitely have, and I had my company, I would definitely have a lot of millennials on my team. Why not? You know what I mean? You need that. You want to know what's up and coming, you need that. Nobody expects a Gen X person to know how to run social media, but that 12-year-old who grew up on social media, it's just innately in there. They know how to handle that. They know how to run that.
Well, now you touched on a whole nother level. See, millennials, you're about to be old. Yeah. Because you got, what's this, Generation Z? Is that what they're calling them?
Generation Z, literally the end of the alphabet.
Entering the workforce right now. Y'all just got old.
Man, we asking them for advice now, but I think it's important for all the generations to stay connected and know it's a place. Clearly, it's a place for everybody, and we should be helping each other.
So, not to speak for you, but I think, would you agree that what has really helped you in your transition from college to the real world, and college is the real world too, okay, but just the business world and the being on your own has really. You've been helped by these relationships with folks from the older generations.
Oh, definitely. I needed that guidance because without it, it's a lot of confusion. And I feel like we live in a generation, not to jump to this, but we live in a generation where right now, a lot of millennials and the depression rate is just so high. Everybody's anxious. Everybody's looking at social media, getting depressed about their own life. When really you have these other people who are living these normal lives, might not be heavy influencers, who need that guidance from Generation X. Like, I was right where you were. It's okay.
And see, and that's what Business and Bourbon is about. Yeah. That's what our podcast is about. It's about having real talk with real people. Like, we're not going to bullshit. We're going to talk about the things that we all have to deal with, the things that that are required of us to be successful, and just like real talk. I don't like to build anything based on outliers. And I think that we talked about millennials and being really influenced by social media, and a lot of our social media influences by outliers, right? Kylie Jenner is an outlier. Stop judging yourself based on her success.
She's the outliest.
Yes. What I'm saying is that we need to have a realistic view of what success is, and it's absolutely okay to hold ourselves accountable to a level of success. Yeah. Absolutely. But let's make it realistic. Let's make it something that's attainable. Now, in saying that, I'm not saying to temper your dreams. No, hey, what they say, shoot for the moon, land in the stars? Right. Absolutely, that's cool. But don't shoot for Pluto. You shoot for Pluto and, hey, you might end up dead on Mars. I don't know. I'm just saying that I think it's important that we share knowledge. And millennials, man, I love the energy that you guys bring, and I love that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. See, you get to take credit because you are the
take
millennial
it.
in the house today. But I love the energy that millennials bring. I love the enthusiasm that they bring, and when you couple that with experience, and I think it's just a recipe for success. So I think what we all need to be willing to do is just learn from each other and realize that we all have something to offer. We all have something to bring to the table, instead of getting in our own corners and getting with our own groups and saying, hey, we're better than this group. No, man, the power is in our diversity. So if we can bring together a group of folks of multiple generations, I think it only empowers you. What do you think?
Everyone has something to add, definitely. I'm not sure where I would be without the mentors that I've had. Even when I was in college, I was smart enough to have a mentor. Mm-hmm. It's very important.
That's super smart.
You're going to make so many less mistakes. Why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? When I was growing up as a kid, I had 2 older siblings. Technically, those were my mentors. I got to watch their mistakes, got to see what they did right, what they did wrong, and I got to move accordingly. So that was a plus for me too. So I think that it's always important to look to others who you might want to be like something that they do, and look for some guidance. It'll help with a whole lot of confusion in the meantime. A whole lot of money that won't be wasted if you can get some guidance on what to do with it.
Love it. So you've been out in the world for a little while now.
Yeah.
Okay. You graduated. Let's see. You're 27. You graduated 6 months ago. Right? No.
Tell Sally Mae I graduated 6 months ago.
Okay, it's been a little longer than 6 months. All right. She did graduate on time. So it's been whatever it is, 4 or 5 years.
It's 2013.
There we go. Okay.
There we go.
So over that period of time, it's 2019.
Oh, wow.
So I want to know what these new college graduates that are popping out, like, we got a lot of these guys that watch my content, that attend business and bourbon events.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for your former self and these folks that are just popping out? Like, give me a couple of words of wisdom. What would you like to share with them?
I would definitely tell them, other than, of course, the first one would be to definitely seek out a mentor in whatever field you want to go into, whatever career. Just seek out a mentor for it. If you're confused on what you want to do, don't be afraid. Don't think that you're any different from anyone else. You're still figuring it out. I majored in theater arts, and I'm working in a whole bunch of different fields right now. And I know a lot of us heard this growing up, but opportunities are literally endless. Literally endless. You miss out on one thing, there's another opportunity coming. You need to make sure that you're prepared for it. So just make sure you're preparing yourself for whatever you want to do, because the opportunity is going to present itself for you to do it. I would definitely tell them. And also, spend your money wisely. Ooh. Spend your money wisely. And if you don't need to spend it, don't.
So, making it rain, is that, I mean, if you're raining
making
just
it
ones.
With ones. With your graduation money?
I mean, that's, as the resident Gen Xer here, making it rain with ones is okay,
ones,
right?
If you're making it rain, if you cashed in your $10 bill, make it rain with that $10.
Okay.
And then you put the rest back in your pocket, and you invest it back in yourself. That's what you need to do.
Okay, so making it rain with ones is okay.
You better have a plan to get that $10 back.
No, Shelby, thank you so much. I think that's great advice for some of the new graduates out there. And I appreciate it. So with that said, we're going to clink it up. And I want to tell you guys, Business and Bourbon is not just a podcast. It's not just a show. It's not just an event. It's a movement. That's what we're about here. We're about encouraging folks, but not just encouraging. We're about creating an environment where people feel that a little bit vulnerable, to be honest with you. A little bit vulnerable, because we're all going to be a little bit vulnerable. That's how we grow. So an environment where we're growing together, we're learning together, and we're sharing together. So if you haven't been to a Business and Bourbon event, you're missing it. You're missing out, because that Business and Bourbon event is unlike anything that you've ever been to. And I hate calling it networking event because it's so much more, and it's something where we bring people together of all different levels. So we bring the Shelbys, the Millennials, we bring the Gen Xers, we bring the baby boomers, and we all come together at different levels of our success. Because just like the Business and Bourbon podcast, Business and Bourbon live events, it's not about how long you've been in your profession. It's not about what level of success you're at. It's about our constant yearning to grow and to be more. And we all want to be more. Yeah. Whether we've been in the business for 30 years or for 3 months, we all want to be more. And so if you come with that willing spirit, that where you're willing to give and you're willing to learn, you're going to have a great time, because we're going to enjoy some great whiskeys, right? We're going to enjoy some great whiskeys and some other spirits. I know people are telling me, some people don't drink bourbons and some people, okay, cool. We'll bring some other stuff in for you guys.
They got water on the rocks.
Oh, we always have water too. Oh, and keep that in mind. If you don't drink, you're still our friend, okay? And we still have tickets. We still have tickets that are for non-drinkers. So it's not about the bourbon. The bourbon is just the lubricator.
For the thoughts, for the thinking.
It's the lubricator, all right? So with that said, we're going to go and close this episode. And Shelby, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure. And just to talk about Business and Bourbon, I've definitely attended the event, and it's really a collaborative experience. But it's really a great environment, whether you're in fitness, culinary, entrepreneur, with your business, whatever you need, a college student. If you're in the creative services like I am, it's really the perfect place for you to be and to network with other creatives like yourself. So I definitely vouch for Business and Bourbon Live.
Thank you. And with that, we out. Thank you for listening to the Business and Bourbon podcast. Please subscribe. And if you like us, give us a 5-star rating. If you don't, have another drink. Maybe you'll feel a little bit differently. If you'd like to check out our videos, you can go to businessandbourbon.tv. That's businessandbourbon.tv. In addition to that, we're currently touring the United States with our Business and Bourbon live show. It's a fantastic show where we do whiskey education and we do some Q&A, and it's a great networking event as well. So if you'd like to attend one of our Business and Bourbon live events, you can go to businessandbourbon.live. Again, that's businessandbourbon.live. Thanks again for listening.